could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
No coffee mug. Welcome back to the channel, Grand Columbia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. So, today's weather? Well, this week's weather can sum it up in one word. Hot, hot, hot. Wait. Well, let's just assume I'm running for president. Hot, hot, hot. We got up to 86 degrees this week. That would have been record breaking, except a few weeks back we hit 89 degrees. That's all-time record. Night's been pretty nice, at least here in the north. I'm getting nice cool breezes. You almost want to wrap up in a blanket. It gets pretty chilly actually at night. But that's in particular way up here in the north, up on the top floor. I get this breeze that comes in somewhere before midnight, and it goes until about 1 o'clock in the morning. It's pretty much every night. It's fascinating, actually. Okay, so we've had poco lluvia, a little bit of rain, not enough, need more, but that's what we're dealing with right now. Let's see, we've got Juka, thank you very much. Greetings from Finland. Mr. Anonymous Jerry, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, were we talking about the same video? I mean, that was the last one, and that sound is just maddening. Turtle, how you doing, Turtle? Surviving, I assume. Bowman, hello from Dallas. Man, you're getting around. You post this on X previously, Twitter. Can you get monetized? No, I don't believe they've ever monetized. I don't think that's a thing with them. Mike Jarvis, how you doing, Mike? Tex Blue Jean, good morning. Howdy, howdy. We got a light crowd. This is a holiday weekend, isn't it? You lose track here. But I know football started. Bills are next next week, Monday Night Football, Buffalo Bills versus New York Jets. Looking forward to it. I'll be watching it on Cody. Okay. I got a whole bunch of things today, and I don't know if they're all wonderful and fascinating, but some would be pretty good. Alejandra, buenas. How you doing? Latino kid, 33. I'll be in Armenia in 40 days' time. Well, hello and welcome. Flying from the Nederlander. You're a Nederlander. Coleman, I saw a post from Elon, and he said you can make money. Well, maybe it's changing. At one time, he had a video platform. I forget the name of it. And when he was getting Twitter, there was some speculation that he was going to revive that platform. So maybe there's something in the works. I don't really follow it. I don't really use Twitter. But yeah, that would be awesome if he brings that platform back. That'd be a nice place to settle in. Don, morning from Panama. How you doing? I got a friend who's she's stranded there. She's been there for a while. And the thing is, she overstayed. She's from Colombia, and she overstayed. And every month she overstays, the fine goes up more. She's trapped. I told her to go to the Colombian embassy. I think they'd probably help her out, but I don't know. She's afraid to. Need anything from abroad? Well, we stopped calling them broads a long time ago, but perdóname. No, I'm good, thanks. David Abital, that sounds like some kind of medicine. I'm at Cafe Sorrento. I'm not sure where that is. Is that a cafe that has my favorite coffee? I mean, same name. Renee, hi from Bogota. Warm but cold winds kill me. The wind at night there is some of the coldest. It just tears through you. Weather is good in Armenia. It's really been kind of warm for here. I really prefer it in the high 70s, and that's the year-round average. But when you get these weather patterns that we're going to have to deal with at least through the end of the year, if not longer, all bets are off. William, how you doing? We got to go out, get some coffee again. It's in La Avenida Mall. Okay. Let's see. I've got two advertisements I'm going to run. Bear with me. They're both pared down. The first one is the apartment. They're friends of mine. You've all seen them here on the channel, but they've got their own YouTube channel and do really nice videos, short, concise, of things to see, particularly little towns. The channel, it's called Travel with Life Restored, I'm pretty sure. And they've got an apartment. They're going to be doing a little bit of travel, so their apartment, they want to kind of rent an Airbnb type thing. So let me run that. Great location. Somebody will want it. So I'm doing it for them, but I'm also doing it for you because it's just so convenient. Let's see. Got a few more comments. Let me get to this now. I went to the coffee meeting this last week. He changed it again. He changed the time to 11 a.m. and he changed the day to Wednesday. So um, I've got it pinned up on Adventure in Grand Columbia Facebook page for him, and I put together a little thing here. I did go last week. I'll probably go this week. It was pretty nice. We had 6 people there this last week, and the first one he did, I think there were like 15 or 20 people. That was a bit over the top, but 6 was kind of nice. Had some nice conversations. But let me show this because it's got the address. So be ready. Plus, it'll be immortalized in this video. You can always go back and look at the address again. Now, to the person who shot me a message asking me why I'm sending people to Pereira, I'm not. And they said that this coffee shop is in Pereira. It's a chain. We've heard of chains. There's actually 3 locations in Pereira. There's one in Santa Rosa, and there's this one here in Armenia. So it's not a big chain, but it is a chain. Libby, good morning from Cuenca. Man, shame what goes on over there. I don't even like to look at the news from Cuenca, Ecuador. It's always bad news lately. Rationale 20, good morning from Central Florida. Howdy. Abatol is recommended by doctors. Latino kid, I'm half Colombian, half British. Raised partly in Pereira and then back in London for the rest, but now live in Nederland. Bringing my 5-year-old boy for 6 weeks so he can learn more Spanish. So far, he speaks the 3 languages, but needs more Colombian practice. Awesome. Gil Girls, good morning from rainy Northern California. Okay. Do they have a website for the apartment? Nope. Just contact them through the email. I need various apartments in Armenia for the 6 weeks. I think it's open from like for 2 months. So you can go back, look at the email on there, and just write them. I'm not the middleman. I'm just they're very nice people, very honest people, and the people who have stayed there before were quite happy with it. So I'm happy to spread the word. Let's see. All right, let's get to the first one. Get the depression out of the way early. First headline. This is about suicide in the Department of Quindío. It's had a massive increase. So far this year, there's 333 people that have committed suicide. I would say successfully committed suicide. How many got caught and recovered, like this guy in the picture where he's trying to jump off and they didn't let him? Those are more. 218 cases are women and 115 cases are men. Kind of hits close to home, as you longtime viewers know. I had a very good and close friend commit suicide in my apartment. I wasn't even aware of it, but it doesn't leave you. I mean, it's like it's such a waste. But you have a lot of people with this feeling of hopelessness, and it's the way of the world, and hopefully smarter people than me come up with some kind of answers to this. But at least they're talking about it now. You're seeing more information on it, where it was something in the past that was kind of hidden. All right, off that topic. I didn't want to do that one, but I think it's important to know. It's like 3 people every 2 days. That's for a department of, this small. I mean, we don't even have 500,000 people in this entire department or state. Taxi drivers. Now, this is kind of good news. I've been tipping taxis every time I take them when I give them a tip, and I've been tipping like 1 to 2 million 1 to 2,000 mil, 1 to 2,000 pesos, and I just tell them it's for gasoline because they're getting killed. And you may remember this, at the turn of the year is when they all get together with the taxi officials and the taxi drivers and everybody involved in that business, and they have this big meeting, and they actually vote on whether what their fare increase is going to be. And once a year they get to increase their fare. And at the beginning of this year, because the economy was so rough, the taxi drivers all voted not to increase the fare, and that's like never happened. But they don't want their customers, they don't want their friends and neighbors, family, to have to pay more for the taxi, and so they voted it down, even though their costs are getting higher. Well, the gasoline has been going up ever since. It's gone up about 40% since the beginning of the year, or the end of last year. I don't know if you guys are getting a lot of background noise. Make a note here if you are. I'm kind of curious. I left that window open with the camera hanging out there. So they voted down the pay increase. Gasoline prices have been going up, and they've really been caught in a squeeze. And they had a strike a few weeks ago. And in the strike, they met with all the taxi officials and government officials. No noise, awesome, thank you. I got the microphone set so I shouldn't get that noise, but it's really loud for me. Some big truck just went by. So they all got together, and they made an exception to let them vote again on a rate increase, even though it's supposed to be by statute every January, December or January. And they voted it down again for the same reasons. But they're still getting killed. The gasoline just goes every month. The gasoline's been going up. And when you're operating on a slim margin, a little increase, because it doesn't go up that much, but it's cumulative. Like I say, it's a 40% increase now as of this month. So they asked if there was any way to help offset that gasoline price. And I don't know how they're doing this. I'm not sure where the money's coming from, because taxation's not a big thing in Colombia. It's a good thing not to give the government a lot of money to play with. They're just going to steal it anyway. But and I'm talking governments in general. But they came up with, once a month, they file their usage, and they get some sort of rebate on it. Now, I know in this country, there was something, and I don't remember I did read information on this, but I don't recall all the details. But the gasoline, or the oil that comes out of Colombia, is considered a resource that belongs to everybody. And so when that's sold, the part of the profits go back into keeping the prices down on gas and oil products within Colombia. So if you're Colombian and it's a natural resource of Colombia, then it's sold and done by a company, but you get a portion of that in return, so you're getting kind of repaid just for the sake of being a citizen of the country. It kind of makes sense. And so anyway, they're getting, and it's not a ton of money, but they're getting something back. So that's nice. But I really don't think it covers the squeeze. So when I take a taxi, I will continue to give some sort of tip. It's, I tell them it's just for gasoline. And I had one guy actually tear up. A couple of them kind of chuckled. You know, I think they were surprised that, you know, I was paying attention to what was going on, but they're definitely getting hurt. Okay, enough of that. Oh, I do want to mention a couple things about taxis, because this seems to come up. People that are not familiar with how the taxis operate. And so they'll take a little trip in a taxi and it doesn't go very far, and they get out and it's 5,000 pesos and they think they're getting ripped off. There is a minimum charge. The taxi meter doesn't start at 0. And depending on what city you're in, like here, I think it's 1,300 or 1,700, something like that, pesos it starts at. In Manizales, I think it starts something like 3,400 pesos. There's a difference. Why? Well, we're relatively flat here in Manizales. These taxis are going up and down hills. So you know that their gas mileage is crap. You know that they're going through breaks, 10 times more often than a taxi here. And so that's taken into account. So you're going to pay more in general for a taxi in Manizales than you will here. It's still relatively, cheap, but that cost is taken into account. And so when you get in a taxi, you'll see the meter start, and then it stops, and let's say it's at 4,000, he's charging you 5,000, you're thinking you got ripped off. You didn't. There is a minimum charge. Then once you hit that minimum charge, it goes up from there. So let's say the meter gets to 5,000, then gets to 5,500. It does small increments, but gets to 6,200 and he stops. Well, that's going to be your fare, but you will always pay at least the 5,000. And there's also exceptions. If it's a holiday or festival that's going on, there's another 1,000 tacked on. When it gets to be at night, there's a little bit more charge every time it increments up. There's a few more pesos on it. So you can go to a place at 12 noon, go to the exact same place, same way at 10 o'clock at night, and it's going to cost a little bit more. So understand that. It's not taxi ripping you off. It's not a different meter. It's just, it's just kind of dialed in that way. Okay. Something else I've been asked about quite a bit. What's with all the earthquakes? We get earthquakes around here. You get earthquakes everywhere. I've mentioned that before. And this was the last one. Last Thursday was the last one. I didn't feel it. It was somewhere a little after 9 o'clock at night. And I should feel all of them because of, living up the top of a building. It's, it's very sensitive. These things are built to sway. And we had 2 within the week before that. One shook really strong here in this building, kind of violent. And then the other one was pretty mild. I noticed it, but it was no big deal. They were actually, one was the other side of Bogota, and the other 2 were off on the coast. The one that I didn't even feel was closer than those other 2. But the depth where it's located, how deep it is, there's a lot of variation to it. And what I want to say is, if you're getting one of these, you're in a high, on the ground, a lot of times you don't even feel these things. It's kind of like in the US, there's a lot of places that have earthquakes, but you don't even notice them unless you happen to live in a high rise. And, and probably most people that are watching this don't live in high rises, in the U.S. You know, we tend to be single family homes or 2-story condos or things like that. Excuse me. See, now I wish I had my cup of juice. But when you're in a high rise, they're very sensitive. They're built to take up that energy, and they do, and they'll take up that energy. And if you're on the ground floor, you might not feel anything. But what I want to mention is people who come here and they'll be staying in an Airbnb, for example, and they're up on the 8th floor, and there'll be a tremor that's hundreds of miles away, and they feel it. And if you've never experienced earthquakes, if you didn't live in California, I lived there for a while, went through a couple, you would think that the building's going to come down. It just seems kind of, wow, holy, there's no way this is going to, dude, relax. These buildings are made for this situation, and they have higher standards here. The laws that permit to make these high rises are of higher standard than of San Francisco. When there was an earthquake here in Armenia, there is a fault that we're near, and historically it's about every 4,000 years you get an earthquake here. We had ours in '99, so it should be good in my lifetime. But when you had that earthquake, it was devastating, but it was only devastating in the south, where all they were old traditional buildings that were 2- and 3-story of weak bricks, kind of construction like you see in Ecuador. When they had that quake on the coast, everything collapsed. It's because they don't have building standards. But there were over 100 high rises, mostly in the north in Armenia at that time. And not a single high rise sustained any kind of structural damage. Not a one. And that was an earthquake pretty strong right here. So, you know, an earthquake a couple hundred miles away, the building is going to sway, but that's why they don't get damaged. They're built that way. If you saw maybe next week I'll turn the camera to a building they're putting up. If you saw the extent of rebar that they put into these things, it would just be blown away. Okay, enough on that. You got here, our crime levels going up in Armenia, Bogota. Crime is going up everywhere. When you have people not earning more money, but everything is costing more, you're going to have a certain amount that will commit suicide because they can't make ends meet and they don't want to go be a criminal. You'll have some that will go be a criminal because they don't want to commit suicide. There's a lot of stress on a culture. Yes, in Bogota, Medellin, crime is on the rise, but a lot can be avoided. Yeah, the crime that's on the rise here, I'll never say I'm immune to it because you're never immune to it, but the likelihood of things happening here, I mean, I feel pretty good because like almost nothing happens here. I mean, occasionally something, there was somebody was killed 3-4 years ago, and he was actually in a supermarket, and he came up from the south to do some shopping because he was hiding from someone, but that someone followed him up. So it was some kind of criminal activity, and so he got basically assassinated. That was 3 or 4 years ago. That was actually the last murder in the north. They just don't really happen up here. But you get down in the south, and particularly in certain barrios, it's not places you want to go. And you could talk about Baltimore and Detroit, and you know, LA, there's certain areas you just don't want to go, but there's other areas where you don't really have to worry about things. So it's no different. The minimum taxi charge in Bucaramanga is 6,200 pesos. Well, it's only fair because it's the wealthiest city in all of Colombia. Engineering standards for new buildings, apartments for earthquakes in Colombia is 8.0. Okay. Let's see. Now, what do we got? I think I beat the earthquake thing to death. All the earthquakes that we had, it was a little over 6 point something the other side of Bogota. And Bogota had no damage. It was pretty close to Bogota. The two on the coast, one was 5 point something low side. The other was 4.1. That was the one I didn't even feel. As for crime in Bogota, I've been here 1 week. Hear a lot of negative comments about Los Venezolanos. Yeah, it's some of it is a resentment over the overall situation, and you can kind of understand people are getting hurt because they took in just way too. They took in several million, and for a country population of this size, that's crazy. And then on the other hand, you've got quite a few people that came across the border illegally, intentionally, so that they would not be registered, and they feel free to commit crimes. So in other words, you know, you've got criminals that, what are they going to steal in Venezuela? but you can come here and you go to a place like Bogota, and you know it's ripe for the picking, particularly if you feel like you're somewhat anonymous. So you know you have some of that going on, and people get pretty aggravated over it. Although it's not just that. Okay, next one. Here we go.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Oh my God!
Petro. What's the latest on Petro? Speaking of, Governor Condillo made a forceful claim to President Petro, and actually 32 departments, 32 states, the 32 states of Colombia have all piled on about the wave of insecurity. Insecurity is their word for crime that the country is experiencing. And the reason they're pointing the finger at him is he's got very close ties to the FARC, to the ELN, and to the cartels. As a matter of fact, people now know, it's no longer a speculation, that the cartels funded him with a lot of cash that his son took out on the coast and bought votes. And it was those votes that put it over the edge to give him the presidency. I'm not sure. Justice tends to move a little slow here. Those things are factual. So it wasn't when it first came out, but it is factual now. And as a matter of fact, his own son has now testified that that was the case. So I don't know where that's going to go, but it's a bad look when all your buddies are part of the crime world and crime is increasing and you're the president and you don't seem to be doing anything about it. People are pretty pissed off. So just thought I would mention that. Let's see what else we got. All right, we're on to the last thing here. And wow, that was all half an hour. Everybody still there? The chat went quiet. Don't freak me out like that. All right, I know you're still there. And I got green lights finally. So I want to talk about what comes up in conversation quite a bit. And part of the conversation that I have on this topic comes over some things I've said in videos back when I was living in Ecuador. I was horrified when I learned by visiting some of the farms the extent of, man, a big motorcycle like a Harley just went by loud. Some of these farms have extensive use of pesticides. Well, the whole world uses pesticides, and pesticides run on there's hundreds of types, and they run on a scale of, you know, deadly, shouldn't use them, all the way to, you know, they're pretty harmless. So pesticide is a term that's a negative term, but it isn't necessarily. So I've got into specifics. I went into, when I was living in Giron in Ecuador, I went into the hardware store, need to buy a pair of pliers, and I noticed, because I just talked about it, I noticed up on the shelf is you had tons of 5-gallon containers of Roundup. Well, Roundup is banned in a lot of the world, and it's used extensively there because there's no regulation. They can dump as much as they want. You have no idea what somebody is going to use. And it's black water and gray water to irrigate the plant. It was just it was not very good, and people were raving about, you know, the fruits and vegetables, they're wonderful, and it's like, well, some are, but you need to know where you're getting it from. I went with a local friend, and she was keenly aware of this. When she was in university, she had to do some research project on it. And we went to, I forget which market, it was one in Cuenca, big market. So we went to that market, and we walked through, and she was showing me, she knew all the vendors, hundreds of them, but she knew them all. And it worked out that there were 4 vegetable vendors there that did not use harmful pesticides. All the rest used toxic pesticides. So you go into that wonderful market with all these fruits and vegetables in Cuenca, and you're buying. If you don't know which ones to buy from, you're chowing down on glyphosate. So you don't see it. You don't know. And all these assumptions, well, just because I'm in Ecuador, you know, everything's, you know, wholesome. Well, not necessarily. So this topic comes up quite a bit. And so recently I was asked, or I was told, I saw your video from a few years back in Ecuador about Roundup, and they use Roundup in Colombia. Well, I'm pretty sure no, because a few years ago it was something I looked into, but didn't want to argue if I wasn't positive, and I didn't really remember everything from a few years ago. So I went and I took a look, and the following countries have banned the use of glyphosate. That's the harmful chemical that's in Roundup, and it's also in some other things. And in that list, you'll see there's 28 countries that have banned it, and Colombia is one of them. DDT, of course, although that is used in some places in the world, but Colombia is in process. They just banned another one this year. They're in process of going through all of them and locating studies, even doing some studies, because they want to clean it up. And an interesting thing about Colombia, I have to dig a little bit more to find out quite what this means, but there's this survey for the cleanest country, and what they mean is environmentally clean. It looks at pesticides and pollution and all of that. And Colombia rates ninth on the list, number one being Denmark. And, you know, China and the United States and United Kingdom and all of these, you know, they're way down. So Colombia is not perfect. I didn't know, I didn't care, but you know, when it came up and I got a look, it was nice to see that, you know, they're constantly looking for alternative sources. And through a friend of mine that does the birding and he does the guides, and his university work is in these things. Part of what he does is he advises farms on how to plant crops so that there's natural pesticides. So if you plant this crop and you plant another crop next to it, they'll protect each other. And there's a word for that, and I don't remember what it was, but you know, he's really big on that because you not only save money, but you're not putting anything into the soil. Even if you get to these relatively harmless pesticides, it's not natural to the soil. Why put it in and why pay for it? Why do the extra labor if all you have to do is plant other products next to each other? And companion planting. I think maybe that was it. I'm thinking it was something else, but that might be it. It certainly makes sense. And that's a big thing here in Colombia, and he's part of that movement. Although it's not how everything is done. But I was kind of horrified as I was digging into this a little bit to learn about this what is it, what is it? Glyphosate. Not glyphosate, not glyphosate. I didn't really know about this. And this is what's in Roundup. Glyphosate, right. Thank you. You're a walking encyclopedia. Thank you. But this is a product that is in pretty much all cereals manufactured in the United States, wheat products, rolled oats like Quaker Oats. One of the biggest purveyor of this, it's from being fertilized with it, and it's retained in the food even after processing. It's a canola, like in canola oil. It's canola, and that's one of the highest percentages of retention of this. So if you use canola oil that's manufactured in the United States, you know, you're taking this in. So what does this do? Well, it does a whole bunch of things, but the one that caught my eye, particularly as you're getting older, it decreases your testosterone, but at the same time, it increases your estrogen. And in some studies of it, they have found that fertility rates drop. The more this is used, the more fertility rates drop. And then you hear about how the fertility rates in the United States and in Europe have been plummeting. And geez, I wonder if somehow those things are related. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know that any of this is true. This is what I read. I waded through a 22-page report on this stuff. It was a legitimate report, but I don't have the background to give it a real evaluation. But it kind of all made sense. Another thing about here in Colombia that was pretty interesting is that I looked at a report here in Colombia about pesticides, and of all pesticide use from the early 2000s to today, they're using 10% of the amount of pesticides they're using in 2000 and before. So there's been a dramatic decrease. 90% of the pesticide use has gone away. So if you're anti pesticides, particularly harmful ones, Colombia just might be the place to be. Do I have anything else here? no, that's about it. But there is a portion of the government that their job is to actively analyze every pesticide available here to determine. Maybe the reason it's 10% of what it was before is because they keep eliminating. No, you can't use that anymore. You can't use that anymore, and they ban them from the country. So, which is interesting in that back in the 80s, when the United States was involved in the war on drugs and they were spraying all the foliage, the chemical that was killing the foliage was this glyphosate. So there's portions of Colombia that were drenched in this stuff. They do say that it has a very short shelf life, a longevity. And so, you know, you go a decade later and it will just naturally degrade, vanish, turn into other things. So there's the upside. Let's see. I'm sure the U.S. government will stand up to Monsanto. Yeah, okay. U.S. ban will never happen. It's owned by Bayer. Drug lobby too strong. It's interesting that they keep hanging in there. And most of Europe also. On that list, there was a number of European countries, but the big companies in Europe seem to want to hang on to it also. And Canada was an interesting one. It's banned in 8 provinces, but allowed in 2. So that was a little confusing. I was kind of curious of what 2, but I was running out of time. I can only spend so much time on something. I've got other things to do. But I was wondering if it's the 2 provinces that are considered to be the breadbasket, where they grow all the crops, and I say, well, that does a lot of good if you're banning it in the provinces that don't really use it anyway. But I don't know if that's the case, but it did occur to me. Okay, those are my topics for today. No history. I got no comments at all on whether anybody liked that. I thought I'd get a couple emails on it. I got nothing on that. But I did get a couple on the pesticides, and particularly that one guy who was, I guess if you read an email, you can kind of read it as being a little snippy. I mean, it didn't have the nicest of tone, because he watched a video that I made 5 or 6 years ago, and he was angry because, you know, I mentioned that they use Roundup, and he was making all kinds of excuses, and it's worse in Colombia and things like that. And so in a way I have to thank him, because it made me dig a little deeper to find out what was going on. And while I don't worry about those things generally, I probably should. We probably all should. But I have to say it was nice to read about, God, I hate to use this word, but about how progressive Colombia is, how proactive they are on this particular topic. It's like they really care if they're poisoning their own people. Now, how refreshing is that? Okay, just continue with the history topics. Okay, so we got any questions? I realize this is a holiday weekend for many of you, and you probably want to get going. And we've already gone over 45 minutes. I was thinking maybe we just do a half an hour today, but I just let it run for what it is, and it took me that long to get through these other topics. If you find anything useful that I covered today, I really do appreciate the feedback. And as you can tell from every week, a lot of times the topics come from things that people point out to me. Not necessarily even to make a topic, but it gets me thinking about certain things. I'll do a little bit of digging, and I say, well, I'm gonna put that on the channel. Whether it's something historical or even something like this. So I think this is probably useful information, and for some people more than others. I know some people are religious about this sort of thing, And I think they'll be happy to hear that if they're going to move to Bucaramanga in the future, that you know, your food sources are pretty safe. How is volcano in the area? The same as always. You know, smokes a little, keeps to itself. You know, there's a couple that are, I think 3 that are near here in the Nevada range that they're active, and you know, they smoke. When I was living in Manizales, on a clear day, you could look and see the smoke coming up from the volcano. 'Cause you know, they're open and you can look down and see lava. You know, it's you can do ritual sacrifices. You know, get rid of the what was the brain cloud? I think that was a Tom Hanks movie, maybe. Anyway, stay on topic. But they're active, but there's no indication that they're gonna take off. And unlike earthquakes, where you don't get a lot of notice, like I got my notice like a minute before the earthquake. Volcanoes, they usually know quite a bit ahead of time if there's a chance that one's gonna, you know, blow, and that if you live near it, you're gonna hear about it. So it's not much of an effect here. If you had a really bad one, you know, we're going to get debris. We're going to get you'd want to stay inside. You want to cover your face. You might even get little fires here and there, but we're not so close as to be like imminent danger. You know, so that's the nice thing. I think if you had where it opens up towards where the mountains kind of open up a little bit towards Armenia, it's towards the south of Armenia. So if you had the worst of situations, if you had winds coming in this direction, and you had, you know, the sulfur gases that they're toxic, you know, go into the south of Armenia, I suppose potentially you could have a problem. Except the wind doesn't really roll that way. It always goes the other way. So I was wondering if somebody was going to notice that. Yeah, right. Where is it? Here? Yeah, right there. Yeah. Everything's backwards. That's a record album that somebody brought to me because he pointed out that a long time ago in one of my videos, I went, and it's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Country Joe and the Fish song. And he had this album kicking around, and he brought it to me and gave it to me. And it's, the cover is pretty beat up, but it's, you know, from the 60s. But the album, the record itself is actually in perfect condition. I don't know what to do with it. I don't have a record player. I don't want to throw it away, and it is kind of nostalgic. So I decided, let me just put it up on the wall here. So that's Country Joe and the Fish. What is the approximate cost, low to upper end, to furnish a 1,200 square foot apartment? What is that in square meters? I can tell you what I did, and it would be higher now. But when I moved to Armenia, it was when I was having some severe financial problems. And I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, my first one. And it was unfurnished. And I paid $850,000 a month for this place. A nice, beautiful building. I went on Facebook mostly, and I started shopping on there for used stuff. And my thinking was, I need a bed to sleep in. I need a chair to sit on. I would like to have a TV, but I got, you know, that was down on the list. I definitely need a refrigerator. I'd like to get a washing machine and see if I can get all of this done, as cheap as possible. So the idea was to get used. And then once I got over that financial disaster, then I could just start replacing bit by bit. Turned out, great way to do it. Absolutely great way to do it. I bought a bed, got a mattress. It was a new mattress, but it was dirt cheap. Somebody bought it. It was still in a sealed bag, heat sealed, and then, but it was at a private owner. They just never used it, and I got that dirt cheap. So I got the bed, the mattress, the living room set I still have was a 2-seat sofa, 2 armchairs, stuffed armchairs, a coffee table, and an end table. That was $75 delivered. The material was crap. What I did was, because they're so solid, it was solid wood underneath all the upholstery. I figured I couldn't afford that'd be like 5 or 6 million pesos for new. So I got it thinking that eventually I would recover it, which is what I did. I had an upholstery shop pick it up. They put new, not covers, but they actually just put new material on it. So they're really nice now. So I've got a nice set that I originally bought for $75. I got a refrigerator for about that money delivered. I've got the washing machine. I think it was $30 or $40 delivered. I don't remember in pesos, but I'm remembering in dollars because I talked about it in a video, and that's actually what I remember. It was under $500 to set this place up for like I've just described. And then as time went on, I replaced the refrigerator. I replaced the bed, and well, I bought another bed and mattress, and I put the used one in the other bedroom. So anyway, went through all that, and so it spread everything out. 111 square meters. That's pretty good size. So that's 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 or 3 bathrooms. Today, you could probably do something like what I did, but it might be more 800 to 1,000. And I recommend that because you can always, it's easy to sell those things. When the time came, a lot of it I gave to people that I knew that really could use something, because I had so little into it. Some, like you say, some I still have. So, or you could go out and spend $5,000 to $10,000, if you so decide to. But keep in mind, furniture, there's quite a few furniture makers down in Centro. You can go in with a photo, measurements or whatever of what you want. They'll custom make it dirt cheap. Same with shoes. People say, well, I have trouble getting shoes. Well, on Mercado Libre, you can get them. You can order them from Amazon. You can do that. Or you can just go get them made. Very cheap. So there's that. You also have a couple mattress factories right here in Armenia. So you can go right to the factory. They've got, like a little showroom in the front. You can buy directly from the mattress factory. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to set yourself up nice. And the problem with the furnished places is the furniture is usually, it's not great. It's rarely anything that you would actually buy. And if anything happens to it, you're liable. Plus, every month, the cost of the difference in what the rent is, like if it's a 2 million peso apartment, if it's furnished, it'd probably be 3 million. And for that extra million, you could have bought that in 3 months. So it's just money out in the wind. It doesn't make sense to do that. So, you know, everybody does what they're comfortable with, but that's the way I went. And if I had to do it again, I would do it the same way because it worked out really good. All right, our time is up. Ron, thanks for all you do. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys. I mean, you do it for me too. That album could be quite collectible. Maybe, but here people probably don't really even know what it is. And like I say, the cover is pretty rough shape. The album itself, I don't see a mark on it. Looks brand new. I had an anonymous. Well, here we go. I can put this up on the screen. I don't know who that is. I can't see it from here. Let me see. Oh, I can see it. I won't give the last name since it's anonymous, but well, I won't give the name, but I see who it is, and I thank you very much. All right, we're gonna end it here. Send me some emails. Give me some comments. I feed off them. I really appreciate it. And if you're not sure what the email is, right there. myname@gmail.com. Okay. I was reading. Got a couple messages that popped up on the screen here. All right, we're going to end it here. Thank you all. See you next week. Unless something comes up. And if it is, I'll let you know. Ciao.
Oh.